being today and for the organizers. My name is Jorge Rosales. I am from Peru, born in Lima, raised not in Arequipa but Piura. On diversity. I am currently based in Mountain View, Silicon Valley area, but about to move to Toronto in the next couple of weeks. But today I'm here to talk about monetizing innovation. So why I chose to present this topic here? Basically because after working for several years in Latin America, Panama, Central America, Peru, New York, and now here, I noticed that even big established companies that are publicly traded have challenges monetizing innovations and don't know how to do it. And if that's the case here in the Silicon Valley, I can only imagine what the struggle is back home and in other countries. So that's why I wanted to show you something hopefully new for you today. Just a key summary of what my company does. I work as Simon Butcher and Partners. We are the most recognized company for pricing in the world, basically. We have more than 3,000 projects in the last 3 years only, and we have offices all over the place. In Latin America, we have offices in Mexico, Santiago, Sao Paulo, and here in the US, we have in Silicon Valley, New York, Boston, etc. So, research and development. And please, some of these statements I'll make may sound bold, especially if we talk about R&D in like its essence. Hospital R&D, cancer research, no questions asked. You should spend on that, and you should spend a lot of money on that, and time. But this is more like on a corporate setting environment, and if you want to actually make money out of your innovation, what you should think about. So this number is from 2 years ago. I just checked this morning. This number, which is the total spending R&D globally, is now $2,000 billion. So it's higher. However, well, before going into that, all these companies that you can see there, that's how much money they spend per year, or they used to spend per year on innovations. Huge numbers, right? Now, 72% of all new products don't achieve profit target. That's based on our research. We have done like a survey from around the world, and those are the results, and that's an annual survey we do. And 25% of companies, all products fail to meet their profit target. Now, these numbers here show the flop rate. What we call the flop rate is products that crash, that didn't make their targets, and that basically didn't make the financial impact that they were expecting to get. 72%. Now, what goes wrong here? And I have a video here to show you. If you don't know which car is this one, this is the Porsche Cayenne. This is the Dodge Dart. And I want to show you. So, if you notice something, when did the marketing guys and finance guys came into play? At the very end. Now, long story short, before coming into this type of management consulting work that I do now, I used to be a banking guy. And my disregard for marketing was huge. Like, whenever someone told me like that, you have to learn marketing and stuff like that, I was like, nah, that's not, like doing branding and stuff, that's not for me. Like, I need hardcore stuff. Well, now that I'm doing this, I acknowledge that marketing is actually more than just that. And it should be part of every decision a company makes in terms of product. So, that car that was supposed to be a huge success ended up being the second biggest new product flop in 2012. That car, the Porsche Cayenne, was one of the most successful cars in history. Why? These guys here started thinking about the product first, about the price, what people wanted, and then went to the design. Whereas these guys here went from what engineers wanted and then put a sticker on it. So what I want to tell you today is how you should do a product design, or how you should think about monetizing a new innovation you may have, starting first from the price. And I know price is like a capitalist term, to put it somehow, but there's more behind it. So for that car, I don't know if you know who Sergio Marchionne is. He's the late CEO of Fiat Chrysler. He basically said that that car, although it was amazing for him and engineers, was one of the biggest fails in history. Now, one thing that always comes to mind when talking about innovations is this guy. And I'm sure for the ones that have read his book, or his biography more likely, have noticed that he will say all the time, if you have a good product, people will pay for it. Well, that may apply for Apple, and I don't know how many Apples are around in the world, but the reality is that not every company is Apple. So there should be new, we should break those myths, which are these ones that I put here, and we should acknowledge that the Apple model doesn't apply to everybody. In fact, it doesn't apply to most people, or to most companies. So, first one, if you build a great new product, customers will pay fair value for it. No, like, we are human beings, we are irrational, and I'll show you something also later about that point. But we will not pay for, it has to have something that we care about. Now, second, the new product service must be controlled by R&D working in isolation. Once again, to my initial point, to some extent, in some cases, yes, fully understood. But in reality, if you talk about R&D in a company setting, it should not be like that, unless there's a specific mandate that R&D can do whatever they want, which is a different story. But in most companies, resources are limited, so you actually have to interact with other areas. Third one, high effective rate of innovation is normal and even necessary. To some extent, true. But again, you have limited resources. So it's better if you at least go with some previous knowledge instead of just going blind to do something new. 4, customer must experience a new product before they are willing to pay. False. There are ways to acknowledge how much they are willing to pay before even designing something and spending money on it. And 5, until the business knows what it's building, it cannot assess its worth. Totally false. I'll show you why. So, before digging into more details, there are 4 flop categories that we have identified. First one, feature shock. Basically, a good example of this is this guy here, the Fire phone. These guys, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, launched a phone that had a 3D feature and had this, whatnot, and had this, but then the whole operational system was based on Android, but an Android based only for Amazon. They started with a price of $6.99 without plans, and then after 4 months, it was $1 basically on Amazon. And now you can just basically buy it for that on eBay maybe. This particular one basically represents feature shock because it included several features and things that they thought, engineers thought, those guys thought were amazing for someone, but in reality people didn't actually care about. Having a 3D visualizer in your phone, it's fun, I guess, for a party when I show off that. But in reality, how much are you going to use that? Are you is it worth to spend that much money just to have that in your phone, or are you willing to pay $700 to have that, and in detriment of having iOS or a proper Android system? So basically, what happens in this case is team is excited about a product or project. They just add all the features they have because they can, because they say this is going to be cool, let's add all of them. And they don't talk with anybody about costs, value, price, anything. What happens? Costs too high, you cannot get margins, and volumes are not met. And then, promotions, discounts, slash prices. Second one, minivation. In this case in particular, this is a particular example about minivation in Germany. This is a German company, by the way, Simon Kucher and Partners. Basically, OEMs, providers of suppliers for cars, discovered that they have this cool thing called park assist, but they didn't know how much to charge for it. So they did something which is probably the biggest mistake. And if I want you to get something out of this talk today, is do not ever just price based on cost plus. That's the worst mistake you could ever do. What happened? They charged $100 to Volkswagen to have this feature. Volkswagen did their homework, and they noticed that they could actually charge customers $670 for just that stuff. You see the difference here? This money could have gone to these guys instead of these guys. Third one, hidden gems. And this one is particularly painful for me because I studied in Rochester, my MBA, and Kodak was based in Rochester. And that city, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I'm not at all, but just so you know, it was, they had subway systems, they had like 80,000 people living just in the main city, they had skyscrapers. Now you go there, city is dying. Why? Among several mistakes, this in particular. They had discovered this digital camera, but then the business never acknowledged its value, never asked around, never actually acknowledged how much people would be willing to pay for it. And that's what happened. Fourth one is undead, or born already dead. Now, when I was younger, there was a cool product that I saw on the TV that I wanted to have. It was the Segway. I'm sure most of you have seen this. Where do you see them now? Malls, run by police.
Jorge Plaza.
Jorge Plaza, there you go. Well, when they launched this product, they put a target price of basically $8,000. Their plan said that they were going to sell 50,000 only in the first year. Reality was that they only sold 30,000 in 6 years. Why? They never asked people, how much are you willing to pay for this? Are you actually willing to pay $8,000 just to go around in a skateboard on steroids or not? So the list goes on and on and on. Here are some other products which may be actually good ideas. That's a problem. They are all good ideas, probably. But probably they are the wrong answer to the right question, or the answer that no one asked in the end. I just tried to find a recent, Peruvian example. This is the one that I could think of. This is comfort for you. Maybe you can think about why it failed. But this is a good example, I think, of a mistake done by these guys. They actually acknowledged that it was a huge mistake. There are several articles on that on the internet. I can tell you where. But I think that's one recent example in Peru. So this part of the presentation, sad truth, record R&D, investments, flop rate, and 4 flop categories. However, all this can be avoided. How? By using this small framework here. First one is have the willingness to pay talk early. Now, I am an economist by formation. I did my business in economics at the Universidad de Piura. So when I started noticing about this stuff and willingness to pay and how consumers want to pay and price, it was like, wow, all this stuff that I studied in my college now makes sense. Willingness to pay. First of all, you don't need a lot of budget to do this. That's the beauty of it now, especially. You can program your own SurveyMonkey. You can try to send that to as many people as you want in your target market and get some answers out of them. There are some qualitative and quantitative exercises that are more detailed, and I can talk to you about it offline. But basically what you want to do first is ask, all right, my prospects, what do you care about my product? What are you willing to pay for? All right? So first of all, when you're designing this, you don't ever do a long list because no one will read them. You just try to shorten it to 10 to 25 features. But then first, the governing principle is focus on the winners, what people want. Second one is segmentation. One size fits none. This is a clear example. And when I talk about this, I don't mean to say that all companies should just go directly to market with different segments. But companies should acknowledge that there are different segments in the market, and they should know which ones are there, so they can target each of them at different stages if needed. But without knowing that, and without knowing where they are going, they cannot properly develop a product and launch it. So, how not to do segmentation? Here, this is the most common type of segmentation we have. Age, nationality, if they're married, home, income level, wealthy, all right, and they live in a castle. They seem alike, they are completely different individuals. So you have to take it one step further, because that's not just going to be, that's not going to do it for you. There are different type of customers. There are people that want price, there are people that want everything, there are people that want specific features, and that's only going to come up if you do a study beforehand. That's why I'm here. If you ever want to do this, you need data. There's no way you can acknowledge what people want to pay without data. Okay. This is kind of in the same line. When configuring a product and putting all the features, you need to understand which ones are features that people want to pay for, are must-haves, or features that people really don't care about, and take them out almost immediately. Fourth one, how to actually price your product. This is a good example here of how Michelin went from a price per tire model to a price per kilometer. Again, it's more aligned with what Michelin wants. They want to actually make more money as you have more kilometers on your car. This is an example of different metrics of how to, there's not just one price metric. You can actually innovate on that as well, based on your product. Next one is pick the strategy that you want for your product. You can penetrate like Amazon, low prices, expand. You can maximize your revenue, or you can scheme. Put your high tag there, just bring your market up. Again, not everybody's Apple, so you have to take that into account. Most importantly about this is that everybody in an organization, from a startup to a big company, has to be aligned. You ask the sales team what they want, sell more. If you ask the finance guy, what do you want? Revenue, profits, margin. If you ask the engineer guy, what do you want? Features, develop, R&D. So those are completely opposite and different things that a company has to align on. After you have that, you can actually start doing your business case on what you really want to produce. Now, design also comes into play. We had a good talk in the morning about design. This is what a design land page for a company in the Valley area looked like before. As you can see, no one would ever understand that.